For decades, Monarch Advance has been the brush of choice for painters committed to the perfect finish.
Welcome to Saturday League Kickoff.
Oh, it's that time again on a Saturday morning. It's Saturday League Kickoff, and thank you for joining us wherever you are listening through the entire SEN network or live and simulcast live on Fox League. Kaeo, myself, Scott Sattler here again. Well, Webby, hope he's okay. He's not here. I don't actually know why he's not here, but what we do have is his able replacement, Adrian Proszenko, joins us this Saturday morning. How are you, AP?
Hello, Sats. I'm happy to take the crumbs that fall from Webby's table.
Now, you would be a happy man because of the result last night. Mad Parramatta fan.
Never in doubt. It was funny because we were on the chat just as it was happening, and Brooksy was saying, "Oh, what about this? Parramatta all the way." And then there was that try right at the end. But all's well that ends well.
45 seconds of madness. The vision of Madge in his coaching box just going absolutely crazy, just amped with adrenaline. And then 45 seconds later, just a total disbelief. And
the opposite thing was happening in Jason Ryles' coach's box as well.
I actually love the honesty at the moment. And we're going to get into Parramatta a little bit more later on as our club in focus, which is the Parramatta Eels. But even after that win last night, I love how, what's the best way to say it? He's still so naive when it comes to being a head coach. And I mean this in a really good way because there's times during a broadcast when he'll go, "Yep, that's a try," and he'll do his own try. And last night, he let out this massive sigh like when he's live on TV. And I love it. I reckon it's outstanding.
The best is when he's tapping on the box when something good happens or something bad happens. So I think he forgets that the cameras are on him.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I do. And
long may it continue.
He'll be stained. He'll get tainted after a while. Hope he does it, Rylesy. We love what you're doing. Hey, very big thanks also to our very good friends at Monarch Advance. For decades, Monarch Advance has been what the painters' brush of choice, and also our good friends at Winghouse as well. If you want to get involved in the show, 0457 736 736 is the SMS number. And if you want to give us a call, we've had a lot of calls over this show over the last 17 or 18 weeks. And it's 1300 01 1170 is the number if you want to give us a call wherever you are around the country, in New Zealand as well, wherever you're listening through SEN or live on Fox League. We want to hear from you, whether it's via text or give us a call. Parramatta fans, what are you loving? Broncos fans, what are you lumping? Cowboys, of course, their win over the Dragons, and we go back to Thursday night, that epic battle on Thursday night, which had everything, AP. It had injuries. It had again, drama around decisions in the bunker.
Tedesco's
controversy, yeah.
Was he behind the kicker? He wasn't. But, it was good. And isn't it funny how last night we had a really high-scoring game in the Dragons-Cowboys, and you just go, it's a bit of a rubbish game. There was no defence. What was that all about? And then it's a high-scoring game with Roosters, Melbourne. What a cracker. This is all that's good about rugby league. Why is one better than the other? It just is.
It is. That's the best way to say it. It just is, for whatever reason. Hey, come up on the show. We like to touch on a number of the issues. Of course, the Thursday, Friday night games as well. We're going to touch on eligibility as well. And we feel as though the ARLC, we're reading that they're going to look at maybe revamping those rules around eligibility as well. So let's see how that plays out. And some of your suggestions around Tier 1, Tier 2, I think that needs to be revamped as well. What makes you a Tier 1 or a Tier 2 nation? State of origin obviously comes into that quite substantially as well.
That'll be a good chat, Sats, because there's something special about state of origin, and no one really knows quite why it works, but it just does. So you don't want to mess with the fabric of that, but at the same time, you want to strengthen the international game.
You do. Well, as an Aussie, I just want to win. So, it's I know we want to strengthen international rules, international rugby league, and we can't wait for the Ashes this year, but also at the end of the day, you want to win.
Yeah.
But we'll touch on that a little bit more. Hey, like we do each and every Saturday, let's get to our Saturday Spotlight.
The Spotlight.
AP, we'll start off with you.
Des Hasler, 500 games.
Has Des Hasler become the new Lockie Galvin?
Not quite. What, a pariah? What are you trying to say?
I don't know. Just every time we want to talk about rugby league, it's Lockie Galvin.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now it's Des.
Well, it's interesting because I spoke to Des about 4 or 5 weeks ago and I said, I want to do a story about you celebrating your 500th game. And I said, well, I need you to be there. You're no good to me if you're not. And he said, don't worry, I'll be there. I'll talk to you. And it's a very elite group. It's only 6 people that have done it to date. And he hasn't had the success at the Titans, unfortunately, for a whole number of reasons. But I just think that he's one of the most interesting cats in rugby league.
He's intriguing.
He's different. He's the mad professor. It's actually a privilege to be able to speak to him, talk about himself, because it's the thing that he least likes to do. But I'm really happy for him that he got there.
How do you find him as a journo when you've worked with Des in the sense of a story or getting something around a game that's happened? How have you found him?
I think the first thing you've got to accept is it's most likely going to be on Des's terms.
Yep.
So once you get over that, but I actually think that a couple of times I've spoken to him and he's been quite giving of himself. And when he does and he lets you in, he's actually a really compelling, charismatic bloke, when he wants to be.
He'd have a story to write, wouldn't he?
Well, look at this, right? So
Here you go. Webby's written biographies. This is your first biography.
So you talk about stories and books being written. So one of the greatest authors of all time, Thomas Keneally, has written Des Hasler's biography as a player. It's called The Utility Player, the most understated name for a book ever. And this is a guy who wrote Schindler's Ark, like the greatest, one of the greatest stories of all time, one of our greatest national treasures. And he's done a thing on Des Hasler. And I actually said that to him. I mean, how special is that? And he goes, that's the thing you remember. It's not the wins or the losses or all the BS in between. It's the people that you get to meet and, guys like Thomas Keneally who I can call a friend. So
blow that whistle, ref.
Blow that whistle, ref. I don't think I'm going to do a better job than Thomas Keneally, so I might just leave that project alone.
Actually, I've got to apologise to Adrian because you have actually written a book.
I have.
What was it called again?
The Johnny Larkin Diaries.
The Johnny Larkin Diaries.
Yeah, there you go. I'll sign a copy and we can raffle it off to one of our callers.
Go and look for it. Hey, my spotlight is, it's a sad one. It's valet to former Western Suburbs Magpies, Gold Coast Seagull, South Queensland Crusher, and also Bradford Bull, Danny the Bird Peacock. There'll be a lot of people right now that'll be hurting of the loss of Danny Peacock on Thursday, who was an electric fullback. He's a very, very good player, very underrated by some, but not by those who played with him, because his kick returns was something very, very special. Danny Peacock, and I was fortunate enough to play with the Bird at Tweed Seagulls and the Crushers, and he's just one of those teammates that he was always happy. When you were around, you had a big smile on his face every time. He always wanted to make everyone around him happy for the occasion, and he'll always be remembered. Thoughts to his immediate family, Nicole, also his kids, Laura, Jack and Ben as well. He's got grandchildren as well. So I want to send out some of the condolences to the Peacock family, because he was a special guy, Danny, and there's a lot of people that are hurting right now that this has come as a real shock on Thursday night. I do want to say shame on a journalist and the way he's made inference around Danny's death, and he knows who he is. So I just think that we shouldn't allow the family to grieve right now. I'll touch on it later on. So Danny Peacock he's a hell of a nice guy. It's also another really quick spotlight. This is a selfish one. My dad would have been 83 today.
Oh,
yeah.
God bless him.
Yep, 1940. He's gone 2 and a bit years now, the old man. So my daughter sent me a photo today of her and my son Jack sitting on his lap, saying it should be a public holiday today. I said, well, it will be for some South Sydney people. They'll treat it as a public holiday.
Tell me this, Sats. What's one piece of advice that he's given to you that you've carried for all of your life?
Always shave on a Monday. He used to say, always shave on a Monday, because it starts you out in a fresh, clean look at the week. You
had a quick, you had a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow just before the show. You went and had a shave.
Always had a shave.
Good advice.
Yep. And he said, if you're always involved in rugby league, make a difference. That's what he'd always say. Yeah, for the good. Hey, let's touch on the Friday night games. And that was an epic battle last night, wasn't it? Well done to Parramatta and the Parramatta fans. Well done to Jason Ryles as well. First game for the Broncos. So 22 points to 20. Was the round 21 it is, 22 points to 20 in favour of the Eels at Suncorp Stadium, and they've always had epic battles. I remember there was a game back in 1993 when Parramatta beat the Broncos at the old ANZ Stadium, the old Commonwealth Games location. Stewie Galbraith, Mickey Butner, They were all some of the players that played on that day. But this is a great win for a team that has been slowly building. First game with Walsh, Reynolds, Hunt, Haas, Carrigan as well. So before we talk about this game, let's listen to the coach of the Brisbane Broncos, Michael Maguire, on the loss.
They were better than that. They were better than us. There were periods where we did it, but we've got to be more consistent. We've obviously seen that over the last 5 weeks or five games that we have played, that we play periods, but we've got to be able to do that longer. Or when a team turns up the way the Parramatta did, which is credit to them, they turned up for a long game. They kicked the corners and they played the simple things really well. It's a simple game. We just didn't handle that.
It's good honesty from Madge. Also to understand how important of a win was to Parramatta as well. But before I get your opinion, AP, I think the Broncos can still win the comp. There's just got to be stop being so frantic and hectic.
Yeah.
It feels as though that when they had their stars out, all the other players, they learn how to win by playing the long game.
Yeah.
But it feels as though that they're just so hectic and frantic that they want to blow teams away and win by 30 every game.
Well, Reece Walsh is emblematic of that.
Yep.
So he showed that ad-lib football when they try to pressure him on the last tackle, he decides to run the ball, a gap opens up, and we go, Reece Walsh, he's a genius. But then there's times when he overplays his hand, and he's just got to know when to pick his times. And I've got to say, just what a difference one player makes. Mitchell Moses returns. He basically hasn't played hardly any football for Parramatta over the last couple of years. Massive call for Coach Jason Ryles, a guy who's trying to get as far away from that wooden spoon as possible. This is a chance for him to pair up Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses, and he makes the call and says, no, Dylan Brown, he's not part of my future going forward. We gave him the option of going to Newcastle. He decided not to take it, so I'm going to go with Footy Dean Hawkins, and that worked really well. But what part of Mitchell Moses' skill is that he gets everyone around him to play better, but you could almost see it like on kick returns, like things that are just not even skills-based.
Things you don't need to be talented at.
They're ethic work-based, and yet they were doing all of those things better just because they felt better and more confident with Mitchell Moses in the side. Yeah,
he's got an aura about him now, hasn't he, Mitchell Moses? Once upon a time, he was much maligned, was he, as a player? People were questioning, does he have that, that mental fortitude to be able to play Origin? Well, he goes to Origin, he dominates.
Yeah.
And now he's got to that stage, and maybe it's just through maturity, or whether it's through that Origin experience that it's made him realise that he's an elite half.
So it's interesting. It was a story that I ran a few days ago. I actually sat down with him in Origin camp, and then of course he did his calf, and the story got shelved for a while. But I said to him, I remember seeing you when you were young. It was you and Luke Brooks. You're teenagers. You just come into Concord.
Yep.
I'm in the bowels of Concord Oval. And I said, mate, you were pretty cocksure. You're a pretty precocious little young punk. Whereas Brooksy was really quiet and timid, the way he still is now. And I said, if you could go back, what would you tell young Mitchell Moses, the 30-year-old who's a father of two, who's now the captain of his club, he's a senior player, on 1 point, whatever it is, $1 million. And he said, the big thing I change is just realising it just doesn't happen. You have to be professional, and it happens every day, whether it's nutrition. It's not just clocking in and clocking out at training. It's staying back. It's doing the video. And he said the other thing is just to keep the redhead away. He goes, I realise now that sometimes I'm quite animated.
Keep the redhead away?
Redhead, like, when you red mist.
Oh, okay, righty, yep.
Yeah, sorry, I probably could have said that better.
I was going to say, was he born a
not to the best of my knowledge. But just that whole idea of, if I'm more calm and I'm not shouting at my teammates, that they feed off my emotions. So if I'm a little bit more level-headed, and we saw that last night when the game was on the line, he didn't lose his head. He provided that calmness and a little bit of aura, and they got the job done.
Yeah, he just adds those little things, doesn't he? And that all comes with maturity, doesn't it? And you wish you could go back in time as a player and educate the younger self. But I do love hearing that. He's more or less saying you've got to be obsessed by the game. Yeah. You can't be a part-time player. And people who listen to me, myself and Matty Rogers on Sports Day, we all always wax lyrical about this, that if you're not obsessed by the game and you're doing everything you can as a 21, 22, 23-year-old, when you get to 29 and 30, your body calls upon you to call back on a lot of those reserves, the things that you put into your body back in the early 20s. And if it's not there, well, you fade away really quickly. And so I'm glad that he's touched on that.
Yeah, because I think that there's been a period in our game where players were too cool for school. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't watch games, I don't need to. I like watching NFL or playing PlayStation or doing whatever else. And clubs actually are recruiting now. Like they say, like Canterbury's a good example. If you are not into footy, if you're not a footy head, we're not interested in you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it comes down to if you're willing to do that due diligence on players. There's some really important facets of a player of who you bring in your club. Now, they conceded a try from intercept, Parramatta, and 2 tries through the middle. And that was Walsh when he stepped back off the left foot and went through the middle. Billy Walter scored the try, and Hetherington, Kobe Hetherington, the inside pass.
Yep.
That's a concern.
Yep.
That's a concern for Parramatta. They've got to try and tie that up. But
Their second halves have been a concern too.
Yeah.
So it sort of felt like they're coming to get us. And they would have had like flashbacks, all of these nightmares about what had happened. Like they put up a good fight against Penrith and then faded badly. They did the same thing against Canberra.
we saw it last night. They protected the lead.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. So it's just knowing when to play footy because they can play footy when they want to. So it's game management and awareness.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that comes with players that have been put in those situations. And if you've been in situations where you lose a lot more than you win, you get scared of that loss again. You almost invite it by just playing to the clock rather than continuing to play footy as well. Now, for the Broncos, they conceded 3 tries on their edges. This is a concern because, and quite easy tries as well. A couple of Zach Lomax. Sean Russell's was one from a beautiful chip and chase from a regather.
You can't defend that.
Exactly. Josh Addo-Carr on the edge as well. And that's a concern for Michael Maguire. That's either your inside defenders aren't giving enough confidence to your outside guys, or your outside defenders are just coming in for no reason and making decisions before the ball's even been passed, while the ball's in the air. And that's a concern. If you're coming up, you've got to come up and come up with a result. The Cowboys, they're going through it at the moment as well on their edges. They're coming up for the sake of coming up and not coming up with a result.
In many respects, a loss would have been the best thing for them because a win there would have papered over those cracks that you're talking about. And to his credit, Michael Maguire was really honest in the post-match press conference. He didn't contest that Joash Papali'i drop ball, the try right at the end. He basically said, we're not good enough. They had a better attitude. And there are massive things that we need to work on if we're going to be shaking up this competition.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Reece Walsh, he has denied the last-minute miracle to win the game. That's the one you're talking about with Joash Papali'i.
Yeah.
But on the back of Thursday night, same scenario, wasn't it? It's only 24 hours, and we're looking at the same scenario. Well, Tedesco, I see Aaron Wallace, who's a mad Roosters fan and a stats man, has shown some vision, which is, it looks like it's been put into a graph, and it shows that top half of Tedesco's body is past the ball. 2 feet are behind the ball, if not on the ball.
Yeah.
So he's saying play on. Now, he's a Roosters fan.
Yeah.
Okay, but in saying that, it wasn't as, I think it was inconclusive in some ways.
Yeah.
Based on the angles. But we saw the old blimp angle, the drone angle.
Yeah.
And it showed that he was offside.
I thought that he was offside.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, that had been going around on social media, there was a clip of the Harry Grant try where he's crashed over, where you get to play the ball in the
Rolls
just
the
leading
ball.
up to, it's a roll ball. So, should we, if we're looking at that sort of stuff with the bunker, should we be disallowing those sorts of tries?
Yeah.
Then?
The Reece Walsh one, he was offside.
Yeah, no doubt.
Why do we have to have both feet behind the ball? Why shouldn't the whole body be behind the ball? Wouldn't that make it easier?
Yeah.
Just have your whole body behind the ball. Because when I'm taking off to chase a high kick, like a Zach Lomax or a James Tedesco or a Eli Katoa, as soon as you're next to the kicker or inside of the kicker, you're going to lean forward to explode. So your top half of your body's going to be before the ball, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your back half's going to be behind the ball, hopefully.
Yeah.
So why not just make the whole body's got to be behind the ball? It makes it easier. Is that not common sense?
Makes too much sense for it to ever happen.
Do you know once upon a time it used to be 1 foot behind the ball?
Yeah.
You used to just have 1 foot behind the ball.
Well, on the goal line, has it always been 2?
No, it used to be 1 foot on the try line. Now you've got to have both feet on the try line.
So it makes sense that if whatever you're doing on the try line, it should be the same.
Yep.
So it's not the biggest issue in the world, but I feel good for Joash Papali'i, who had a blinder first game as fullback, And rather than just dive on the ball, it looked like he wanted to scoop it up and run 50, 100 metres and score a try.
It's that young arrogance, isn't it?
I know.
Good arrogance.
But that's what happens when you've got a young side. And like Jason Ryles has blooded a whole lot of young guys in that team.
Yep.
And they'll be better for this experience. That's why he's decided that, there's a lot of senior guys that aren't playing in that first grade side at the moment, and he's looking to the future. It's not all about today.
Yep. On the text line, 0457 736 736. Steve says, can Reece Walsh stop passing the ball? Run, Reecey, run. Well, he does play like a little bit more of a second 5/8 as well.
Yeah.
So it is a good part of his game. But I do know what you mean. Sometimes you'll throw it early on in the tackle count because he thinks that's the result they need early in the tackle count rather than building to something. But there's a part of me that watching Reece isn't boring.
Oh, it's
where
so
some of the
good.
parts of the game I hate using the word boring, but
predictable.
Can get a lot predictable. I love his unpredictability. I do like that about him. And
there are times when Michael Maguire would like it, and there'd be times when he'd be going, champ, tuck it under the arm.
Billy was like that.
Yeah.
Early on in his career, everything was at breakneck speed. He was playing at red line fever. He'd chip on tackle 2, tackle 3. We loved it. But then again, he found this balance to his game where he knew that his speed was going to get a result more so than the pass.
The big thing with Billy Slater was that Craig Bellamy said, you can do anything that you want to on the footy field, but you need to practice it 1,000 times at training and get it 100% right. So inside ball, chip over the top, do whatever you want, but it can't be just off the cuff. You need to have done it at training, repetition, get it sorted.
Yeah, exactly. Who did I see on Thursday night kick? It was a front rower. Who played on Thursday night? It was the...
Payne Haas put a little one on
Payne Haas put a kick in last
well.
night, didn't he? He did actually. Fifth
Good
bar.
kicking game.
169 says, don't listen to Sats. He's an anti-Roosters fan as well. And we are going to touch on really soon, 742, possible, another Eels tragic AP, possible signings for the Eels. We're going to talk about the Eels as a club in focus very soon. So next up for both those teams, the Eels, they host the Storm on Thursday night, and the Broncos, they host the Rabbits on Friday night as well. So let's get to the second game last night. The Dragons, well, they travelled up to Townsville, 38 points to 32 in favour of the Cows. For Todd Payton, it's a finally moment. We can just sort of just cool our heels a little bit. All the pressure starts to focus on other clubs at the moment, and we can just at least have a week where we can breathe a little bit. Although the performance itself as a game, 13 tries in total, which is great from a viewer.
Yeah.
But if you're a fan of one of those sides, you probably want to be winning far more convincingly.
Yeah.
And as a coach, even from a winning side, there's a couple of things he knows he's got to tidy up on.
Well, you talk about Todd Payton as a coach and pulling his hair out if he had any. What about the start to both halves?
Yeah.
So they kick the ball out on the full Purdue to start the game, and then they start the second half and they get bundled into touch.
Yeah.
So it's just details. That's stuff. That's 101 stuff that would just be coach killer action.
And again, it's got nothing to do with the coach.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's got nothing to do with the coach. It just comes down to the execution. Once again, well, they're leading 28-12 at half time, ended up holding on for the win. And the Dragons, like they have throughout this year, they've never given up for the fight. They enjoy the fight. They enjoy the battle. They just at times they just lack that polish, that little bit of polish at the end to try and win those games. And that was always going to be the rebuilding phase. But Tommy Dearden, again, he's just proving. We talk about Mitchell Moses. We talk about Isaiah Katoa. We talk about Jerome Hughes. And Nathan Cleary's sort of been in rare air for a while by himself. But now we've got all these other halves that are just really catching up and sitting at a really prominent table of number sevens. And Tommy Dearden, well, he's pushing ahead of a lot of them.
Well, you talk about Tom Dearden and Nathan Cleary.
Yep.
Is it a lay down there that Nathan Cleary is going to be the Australian halfback at the end of the year?
Yeah, I think he will be, yeah.
So do you take Tom Dearden to tour? Do you play him off the bench? How's Kevy Walters going to use him, or does he just overlook him?
No, I think you take Tommy Dearden because primarily he's going to be a representative player. He's going to wear a lot of green and gold, which he has already, but he's going to wear a lot more green and gold. Yep. So I think the purpose would be to take him along. One, because of injuries.
Yeah.
Munster will be the 6th. That's if he does go at the season's end. If he just says, you know what, I dealt with the season. And also, shout out to the Munster family and with the funeral of his father, Stephen, as well, on Friday. He might just say at the end of this final series or when the season finishes that I just want to park the season now and I don't want to go away and tour. And I think we'd all agree that he has every
it's taken
right
a toll
to do
physically, emotionally,
Absolutely.
in every way.
So I wouldn't surprise me if we saw Nathan Cleary 7, and Tom Dearden 6, or Nathan Cleary 7, and a Mitchell Moses 6, and Tommy Dearden goes away as that 14th man, or just in case they get an injury.
I was going to say those 4 gun halves,
Yep.
one of them's going to miss out. You can't take 4, you'll take probably 3.
Yep.
So whether it be Moses, Dearden, Munster, you assume Cleary will go. Someone's not going on a very special tour.
Yeah, exactly. 3 games, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Your thoughts on Kevy Walters? I like the signing of Kevy Walters as the Australian coach for a number of reasons. We'll get into those. Zach Laybutt scored a good try to open. Now, he should be shouting his teammates as well, because 12-6 with 15 minutes to go in the first half. For some reason, he tried a ball hit the ground. He raced to try and get it. It was about probably a foot in from the sideline. It was never going to end up in his favour. And then Fine ended up scoring not long after that.
Yeah.
But Zach Laybutt came up with a beautiful tackle that would have been a 4-pointer as well after the Fine try. And he's been really good, Jack Laybutt, since coming back from an ACL as well. So that game was heart attack material for anyone that supports both those sides.
Yeah. Interesting to see what happens with Tyrell Sloan over time as well. So basically he got re-signed on about $1 million over 2 years to be their long-term fullback.
Yep.
Obviously Clint Gutherson is got that for the next 3 years. He was dropped. They let him negotiate with other clubs. Does he stay? Does he go? Like, it'll be really interesting because we keep seeing these.
They should write a song about that.
Should I stay or should I go now? Yeah, I think they might have. But it's a fascinating one for him. Does he just go, I'm going to prove to Shane Flanagan that I deserve to be that guy and I stay? Or does he think the grass is greener and I start looking at Perth or other options?
Perth's an option for him, but if he wants to play fullback, I think really is UK Super League's probably the only option for him, and build himself up to a point where he becomes such a commodity that they want to bring you back to an NRL club as well. We've seen that over there with Bevan French and Co. And they want to stay over there because they're loving their footy. They're getting paid good money to do it. And why come back to the spotlight of people like you to pick on him? Hey, let's get to the winning coach, Toddy Payton, after the game.
Very. Particularly the way that last 3 or 4 minutes felt in the box and looked on the field. So, happy and relieved with all the effort that's gone into it, and a little bit of reward for it in the end. So some big efforts and some big plays, and so got some work to do still. I thought we were better or cleaner out of our own end, but some yardage penalties got them back into the game, in the contest. I thought our attack, everyone was pretty connected there and scored some good points. So there's a range of things that were better.
And he did also allude to a tackle right at the death by John Bateman as well, which those little tiny effort areas, like I said, Zach Laybutt come up with a good one in the first half, and Johnny Bateman, who many questioned, and I was one of them. I questioned why would they take on Johnny Bateman. One, he's going to get burnt in the sun up there in Townsville, but two, he's coming up with little tiny plays in games, and they're the little ones that mean a lot to your teammates.
Have you actually ever tried to speak to him? Like, I cannot for the life of me work out what he's saying.
I can't get past his new teeth. Yeah,
he's got such a broad English accent. But look, he's the hard head that they need. Like, he didn't leave the Tigers well. Like, he didn't leave Canberra all that well as well. But obviously, Todd Payton saw something in him, and I dare say he would have come a little bit subsidised, which made him a good buy for him.
Cohen Hess, outstanding. Again, coming back from an ACL. It's been a long comeback for Cohen Hess, and he's been outstanding for the Cowboys. And his efforts last night, some of his runs last night, they really got them on the front foot, and it gave the ability for guys like Robson, who was good as well. Tommy Duffy had a better game as well, being reintroduced back into first grade. So there's a lot of really good efforts, a lot to work there with Toddy Payton as well, but a lot of headaches as well. A few headaches he's a little bit concerned about, especially his edge defence.
Still, we're half a dozen games away from the finals and they're not in contention. That is a bad year for the Cowboys, given the roster that they have. They should be performing a lot better than they are.
Shane Flanagan, let's get to the coach of the Dragons post-game.
In the end, just some soft tries. There was the try just before half time was really poor, and then the try from the short kick-off, you can look back at them and we got beat by 6 points, but we're trying to win the footy game at that stage. So they're tricky ones, but I'd say some just general some soft tries, and you can't go on a game of touch footy with the Cowboys. I think they win most of the times.
Yeah, he's right. You can't go a game of touch footy with really anyone. There's two sides of the game. You've got to be good at both of them, and most notably your defence. Not the Dragons, but most of those teams are missing out on the top 8 at the moment. So the Dragons season, all but over. I think it would have been a shock if they played finals, respectfully, because they are in a real building phase. Does he make changes? Dragons fans, 0457 736 736. Give us a call. Some of their lower grade players, some of them that are playing in the knock-on effect cup, how are they going individually? I mean, the team could be going good, but how are they going individually? Are they dominating in their positions as well?
Well, they've come to a bit of a crossroads. So they have, like Lachlan Ellis obviously can't get a start. They had a very good promising half in Jonah Glover, who hasn't been able to get a start. They didn't offer him a new contract, and because he felt that he was stuck behind Kyle Flanagan, he decided to sign with South Sydney. So Wayne Bennett obviously saw something in them. They're talking about potentially going to market. They've got a new CEO, so there's a lot happening there at the moment. So I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see what direction they want to go to. But I would say that probably their priority is a playmaker. I know Atkinson's coming next year, but I don't know. Is he... how are they going to use him?
It's a big ask, because you say to a kid, here's one, a potential starting position, and two, you're going to run the team.
Yeah.
Without knowing enough about him, it's a huge ask at a club that's got a massive supporter base, have high expectations as well.
Yeah.
But it's also a good challenge for Daniel Atkinson to be thrown in there and say, well, listen, I'm going to take over this team, because it's not happening at the moment as well. So bad news, Jaden Sewer out for up to 6 weeks with a suspected medial ligament tear as well, which is not ideal. Tried to fight through it last night with some strapping, but you could see that when he was walking up the tunnel that he was going to be out for an extended period of time. And before we get to the break, judiciary report, AP. Oh, nice work, Pete, there on the audio.
Yeah.
Carl Lawton, dangerous contact on Jaden Sewer, 2 weeks, early plea. That was the tackling question.
Yeah.
That he's hurt his knee.
Yeah.
What else there? Cohen Hess, careless high tackle on Matty Fino, $1,800, early plea.
Yeah.
And Brendan Piakura, high tackle on Zach Lomax, $1,800. Now, I don't condone high tackles, but it's on a winger, so it should be. No, I'm only joking. I'm a big fan of Brendan and Zach Lomax. I met Zach Lomax in Perth for the first time.
Yep.
He's got hands like T-bone steaks. He's a massive human.
But that's why when he's going up and contesting all those bombs, why he comes down with the ball so often. He's a huge threat.
And a great player.
Great
player as well. Brendan Piakura, high tackle, Zach Lomax, $1,800. That Zach Lomax owes him $1,800 for tackling him. But let's get to a break here on Saturday League Kickoff. Have your say, 1300 01 1170 is the number if you want to give us a call and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Now, Para Steve, he wants an apology around Para winning last night, because he says, I always load up on Para. That's Matty Rogers. He's the one that always antagonises you about Para. We're loving Para. Well, he's loving them even more because he's a Para fan. Hey, let's get to a break. And up next, we're going to talk about the Storm win, takeaways from that game, and a potential injury as well in that game, which is pretty significant. Yeah, welcome back to the show on this Saturday morning, wherever you are listening through the entire SEN network, or if you're watching on Fox League and Kaeo, simulcast live. Hope you've had a great start to the weekend. I know I certainly have. Got up and went for my regular walk. Are you routined? I'm very routined.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of flexibility in me. You're an inflexible man, though.
Yeah, I like to think I am in most parts of my life, but for some reason, I've got this routine where I walk the same way. I have the same brekkie at the same place. I line all my clothes up in the room in what I'm going to be doing throughout the next 2 days.
Are you a bit OCD with that stuff?
I am a little bit OCD. I'm very OCD in the kitchen. I've got to have the kitchen bench always wiped down. I'm very OCD when it comes to that. Can you just clean that up on the desk?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Hey, morning, boys. There's time for the Bunnies to strip it right back with their list and make some tough calls. For example, it's no good paying big money for a guy like Latrell if he's going to only play 14 or 15 games a season. Thanks from a frustrated fan. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of clubs that are going to be look really heavily at their playing rosters, and this is purely because there's one new team coming in 2027 and another one where we're thinking 2028 at the moment, maybe 2029. So they are going to have to make sure that when they're replenishing their stocks, especially, from player sort of, 18 through to player 30, they have to do a lot more research into those players that fill those holes and where they take up a part of their salary cap as well.
Well, you talk about the Rabbitohs, and Lewis Dodd is starting in the number 7 jersey for the first time all year.
I can't wait to see it, actually.
And that's despite all the injuries that they've had.
Yeah.
So, from all reports, they were negotiating with Lewis Dodd at around about the same time the club was negotiating with Wayne Bennett. But Wayne Bennett didn't have a say in Lewis Dodd's arrival, which is really strange. Like, if you're going to be, the coach, it's the most important position on the field, and that hasn't worked to date. Like, they're paying him $2 million over 3 years, and he's only played a handful of games, predominantly off the bench. So whether or not he's a going concern for them going forward, that's a big call for the club. You can
have a lot of injuries, and if you do to key players, it then comes down to the art of your coaching. How good is your coaching to be able to keep a team up for a period of time? I mean, you look at the Dolphins. The Dolphins have arguably the same injury list as what the Bunnies do.
Yep.
The difference between the two is that the Bunnies have got some genuine stars out, whereas the Dolphins have been able to maintain a large core of their key players, like your Averillos and your Jeremy Marshall-King, your Katoas, your Herbie Farnworth. But they've lost a lot of key forwards. That if they have that entire forward pack on the field, they're a top 4 side. Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, Cody Walker is getting to the back end. Jamie Humphries has shown glimpses of what he's capable of, but is he the guy going forward? So big call for Wayne Bennett and the recruitment staff to make there.
We're going to talk about Timmy Zoo a little bit later on because AP, Steve, myself and AP love our boxing. But also, in my opinion, boys, Mitch Moses is the best player in the competition by quite a way. He's unbelievable, Matty says. Well, I've got to say, Matty, we talked about Parramatta early on. If you're only just joining us on SEN or Fox League, is that he's definitely up there now. He's definitely up there amongst those elite players in the game.
It's one of those rare circumstances where his value has gone up by not being available.
Yeah.
Because when he's not playing in State of Origin, you can see how much they miss him. And Parramatta, they have absolutely missed him. And in many respects, it talks to the value of players because Dylan Brown is apparently, according to Newcastle, worth between $13 and $14 million over a decade. And he's had a chance to step up and be that man in Mitchell Moses' absence and hasn't been able to do it to the point now where Jason Ryles has said, you're not part of the future. We don't even have a spot for you in our first grade team anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about the Dragons. Good morning, boys. Just on the Dragons, you mentioned they should have given Jonah Glover and Lockie Ellis an opportunity. King Tongia looks promising, but his defence is not there yet. We've got another text here also about young King Tongia. Looks promising. Flanagan is steady at best. Now the season's gone and Glover's moving on. Pretty frustrating. Wins the Dragon. Now they are at this situation of the season. They can, a little bit like Parramatta have done with Dylan Brown, start working on some of those combinations they see that are the future. Now, King Tongia is part of their future, and they need to persist with him. And sometimes the only way you learn is you learn on the run. It's like learning leadership when you've got a lot of these really good players out like the Broncos have had, and a lot of their younger players have learned how to become quasi sort of leaders within the team while the stars are in rehab. This is what's going to happen to the Dragons. You've got to learn on the run, unfortunately, and King Tongia is one of those players.
The interesting thing is that King Tongia had such a good combination at New South Wales Cup level with Jonah Glover.
Yep.
So it was sort of that, are they the Brooks and Moses that West Tigers thought they were 10, 12 years ago? They've obviously decided not. And that's also hard because do you want to be blooding 2 young guys at the same time?
Yep.
So it's just finding the balance. Kyle Flanagan's obviously got a lot more experience and going to be fascinating to see how they juggle all of that moving forward.
Love all the texts that you got coming in. Michael says, I agree with you, Sats. Lomax headbutted Piakora's forearm as well. Hey, but let's get to Thursday night's game. And what a great game it was. Now, it's not ideal for each coach when you're conceding 34 to 30 points as well. But when you get the win in Craig Bellamy and you do it without one of your key players, if not, again, we talk about elite players, one of the elite players in the competition. 34 points to 30, the Storm over the Roosters. Well, they keep the pressure on the Bulldogs and the Raiders when it comes to a potential minor premiership. Raiders have got a beautiful run in.
Yeah.
You can't take that for granted. But the Melbourne Storm, one of those teams that continue not to go away.
Yep. And unfortunately, it probably means that we put a line through the Roosters now. So they've got a horror run in the last few games. They play Melbourne again.
We said that. We also said that about Manly. They got they've got a horror stretch next 3 or 4
Well,
weeks.
they play each other too. So
they beat Melbourne.
Yep.
That was their first tick of the box.
Yep.
So, sometimes it makes you rise.
Well, it's interesting too. Like the Roosters, again, like they probably won't make the finals, and everyone was talking about it being a rebuilding year, and everyone gives it to the West Tigers in that they're trying to avoid a fourth wooden spoon. The Roosters have only won one more game than West Tigers.
Yep.
So we probably expect more from them, even though they're changing a few things around, and they lost a lot of personnel and experience at the end of last season.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the Storm, to do it without Munster, Pappenhauser, Nelson Asafa Solomana on the sidelines again due to suspension, that's got to be a major concern for Melbourne. Would you rather Nelson there for 75% or 70% of the year and he's going to miss a few through suspension? Or do you want him there for the entire year, not playing with the aggression that he's renowned for? It's a fine balance. Sometimes if you've got the really good backup, of course you'd rather him there.
Yeah.
But he also adds that little bit of fear factor to the side as well.
But the same can be said of Sam Burgess, of Jared Warrior-Hargraves.
Yeah, true.
Guys that used to miss a lot of football, but you just have to wear that because of what they can do, because they're intimidators. They're not the workmen. They're not the guys that just churn out the meters. They're the guys that when you've got the football, you look up.
Yeah.
They're the guys that scare you. So I think you take the good with the bad with Nelson, but it's funny, he's one of those guys, and I don't know if it's going to get off the ground, but has been earmarked as a potential rugby recruit if this R360 scenario gets off the ground. So, yeah, interesting one.
The big question is if it gets off the ground.
We'll know in September, Sats.
Yeah.
So basically, it's done. Private equity funds it, and they have to hit certain markers, whether it be broadcast, signing a certain amount of players. And if they do that, they'll release the next bit of funding for it to go ahead. So we'll see if it's an existential threat to rugby league or otherwise.
I think they'll want too many players. They're going to pay massive money for some mediocre players, which will harm the potential brand. Now, the big news to come out of it was Jerome Hughes. And now both teams had some significant losses. Sandon Smith very early on as well. And then Jerome Hughes before half-time with that shoulder injury. Now, the reports from that were that he's in a fair bit of discomfort and pain. They couldn't pop the shoulder back in, and it didn't pop in naturally as well, which sometimes can happen. He was taken to hospital just for pain relief and where they were able to put it back in. Now, scans have revealed it shows that he could miss anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks, but could be right for the finals.
That's a much better result than we initially thought. When he came off, it looked like both teams this season was over effectively as a grand final threat. But him coming back is huge, and now all of a sudden Craig Bellamy's got a decision to make in terms of does he go with Pezzett or does he go with Tyron Wishart? My mail is that he'll go with Wishart.
It would make sense, Wishart, purely because he's been there every week. Now, Jonah's coming back from an ACL injury. He'll play in the Queensland Cup Country Week in the Queensland Host Plus Cup this weekend. And the Sunny Coast Falcons are playing the Tweed Head Seagulls in a little place called Gayndah, which is one of the citrus capitals of Australia.
Oh, there you go.
One pub. Bloke that drinks at that pub's name's Rooster. He knows who he is. He heckled me one night when I was in Gayndah. But in saying that, young Jonah Pezzett, I think there's probably a chance he would come onto the bench, maybe.
Yep.
Start with a Wishart, and then if Jonah Pezzett has to come on and Wishart has to play that roving role, potentially, I think it makes sense. I think it's a luxury of choices they've got.
So what does it mean for Pezzett's career, though, if he is overlooked in terms of that, a starting half spot, because he's just re-signed. Well, I think it's a long-term deal.
Well, I think he realised what Melbourne do really well is they're able to convince players to be patient.
Fa'alonga's been in the same situation.
They know the players that if they play there longer and continue to develop and learn the game longer at Melbourne, that they'll either play for Melbourne, and when they do, they'll be on the open market. They're going to be worth a lot more coming from a club of that nature. So hence why they stay there. And one, they're just a great club. It's just a great environment to be in. They love living in Melbourne as well. Jonah Pezzett re-signed, which I think is smart for him.
Yeah.
I think 2026 should be a loan year.
Well, Harry Grant's the best example of that. Like, he was stuck behind Cameron Smith, goes to West Tigers. Before you know it, he's a starting first grader. He becomes elite, but he's a representative player almost by the end of that season. And it makes sense. Like, he's wasted otherwise.
If I'm the Gold Coast Titans, I'm going and saying, hey, listen, can we loan Jonah for the first 12 rounds, for argument's sake? And I'd be moving Jaden to 6. I think Jaden would rather a little bit more of a free rein as opposed to trying to direct the team around the field.
Yeah.
And I'd be saying, can we take Jonah for 12 rounds? His dad's a Murwillumbah boy.
There's
It's just across the border.
That's such an unbalanced roster, that Titans roster. They've got like 5 fullbacks and 2 millionaire front rowers. Like it just doesn't work.
Well, yeah, they need to make some decisions there. Also, great news for Daniel Tupou, moves the 5th of the all-time try scorers list. Now, this is a guy who has been at the top of his game for so many years. There's been periods throughout his career at the Roosters, and I'm glad he's just always remained a Rooster. But there's stages there when many were calling for him to move on from the Roosters. They stuck solid by him, like the Roosters do with a lot of their loyal players. And now he moves into illustrious company.
He's kind of like the Roosters version of Alex Johnson.
Yeah.
Where there are times when we're going to move him on, and there's like this petition that says, no, he's part of us. We can't move him on. And sure enough, he'll finish his career there, and one of their greats, really.
Yeah, exactly. The way that Harry Grant controlled that game after Jerome went off the other day, if we're going rugby league week again, it's a 10 out of 10 performance.
Bo Derek, 10.
Bo Derrick's a 10, is she?
Apparently.
Okay, there you go.
That's a movie, apparently.
And now the Roosters, they won only 2 of the 8 games at Allianz Stadium this season, and they got to beat the Seagulls and the Dolphins, like you said, over the next 2 weeks as well. And the Storm, they head back to Sydney on Thursday night, and they take on the Eels, as we said early on. Now we're going to talk eligibility after the break when it comes to Origin and International Rugby League. The ARLC have said they're thinking about fine-tuning it. They're going to listen to greater minds and see how that may play out, and how does it, well, not affect Origin, but also not affect the power of the international game as well. This is Saturday League Kickoff. Scott Sattler, Adrian Proszenko here on this Saturday morning. More after the break. Well, nearly at the end of the first hour of Saturday League Kickoff. So much to talk about, so many texts to get through. Thank you very much. And we've got a caller on the line on 1300 01 1170 very soon as well. But I've got to also, Sats, I'm reliably informed Jonah Pezzett has pulled out from the Sunshine Coast Falcons game on Sunday. A sure sign that he'll be contention for halfback next week. Stormy Daniel, mad Melbourne Storm supporter. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a little bit of maybe half of the first half or something like that. Get some contact and then get him off the field. Yep. And also, I touched on Danny the Bird Peacock, who passed away on Thursday. He's from a place called Augathella in sort of western Queensland. And because it's Country Week this week in Rugby League, where the QRL and Benny Icon and all their massive workers and players, they take them all out to the country and play in all these little places. Well, this is, I suppose, someone's looking down here on the Peacock family, but Norths versus Wynnum in Augathella today is one of the country rugby league games as well, and Danny Peacock is going to be remembered as well during that game. The Augathella Meat Ants, they're called.
That's the best ever.
Yeah.
I thought the Park Spacemen was the best. That takes the cake.
Or the Tabulum Turtle Divers. I love that.
Outstanding.
Hey, 1300 01 1170. Shane from Shell Harbour wants to have a chat about the Dragons. How are you, Shane?
Hey boys, how you going? I'm good, thanks. Firstly, far away Danny Peacock.
Yep.
With the way he used to run the ball back, how many times would he have been sent for a HIA, do you reckon?
I know. I just had a text from one of our listeners called Zane, who just said, I remember watching the Seagulls back in the early 90s, and his kick returns were they were next level, the amount of intensity he brought the ball back with. Yeah, so, yeah, thank you very much, mate.
Well, I'd go back earlier than that, the Magpies, when he was playing for West.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
He was a madman. But as far as the Dragons go, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. There's light at the end of the tunnel. You have a look at some of like the younger boys that we've got sort of starting to get a bit of a taste of first grade. You have a look at the 2 Couchman twins, Pacific Tonga, Dylan Egan, Hamish Stewart, and there's one that no one's seen yet, Helen Garhu. And then you throw in Jaden Sewer, and there's plenty of potential there. There's light. There's good times coming, I think.
Yeah, I think
they signed these 2 boys from Penrith as well.
I think you've made some really good points there, Shane. Thank you very much. he makes some good points. And we've got a text here also that the Dragons need to start looking. And the Bulldogs model, the blueprint, has started to sort of take effect on other clubs. Parramatta, I think, are going through it as well with the whole Dylan Brown not picking Dylan Brown week in, week out. And the Dragons have the ability to do it also. Now, many are saying Jack DeBellin going. And, a lot from the outside would say that's not a great decision. But I can see it from their point of view. And this is not great for Jack and his family, but he gets a contract to Parramatta, good signing for Parramatta. But maybe they're thinking, well, Jack's been part of a system where we haven't tasted a lot of success. So as much as we'd like to keep him, we need to probably move him on. A lot of these young players come through, AP.
I think his situation's a bit different to the Dylan Brown one in that, the Dragons probably haven't kissed their season goodbye altogether. And also Shane Flanagan's not a first-year coach at the Dragons. So they probably think, I want to get as many wins and as close to the top 8, even if we don't quite get there as we can. I will say this, Flanagan has made them a much tougher team to beat. There's a resolve there. Mm. And a lot of those losses have just been by the smallest margins. And if they win half of those, they're well and truly ensconced in the 8.
Yeah, well said. 1300 01 1170 is our open line number. David from the sunny coast has given us a call also. How are you, Dave?
Oh, good, Sats. Love the program. I missed a little bit earlier. I just tuned in, but I watch it every other week. You and Webby, and good to have your friend there today too. Hey, I was at the game last night with the Broncos. Me and my son came down and drove from the Sunshine Coast. We go to a few games, not all of them, but we were just both. You might have discussed it, but we were both just super disappointed in their performance and their lethargy and their lack of game plan. And like some of the players that I thought would have been up for it, like Ezra just went missing. Renault scored that intercept try, which is great to see him get there with his legs, and that helped the game. But I didn't think his kicking game was on. I don't think he's been on for a few weeks. I love the guy personally. He's just an absolute ornament to the game. And honestly, do you think it was the week off that, like, Magic gave them the week off previously and just set them with family, which is obviously a great thing. But they just, I mean, I know Parramatta and Mitchell Moses did a great masterclass, but where were we last night? I mean, we were early in the first half. We were running one out. We have a lot of firepower, and it looked like we just chose not to use it.
Yeah, you make some really good points there. I felt as though, like I said earlier, and we did say this earlier on, Dave, that I felt as though that the Broncos are always playing really hectic style of rugby league and frantic style of rugby league, and sometimes that's really hard to rein back. You've got to be able to go through levels, and really good teams, ones that go and win the comps, they've got the ability to have levels of their game, whereas the Broncos at the moment, it's just everything about breakneck speed, and I think it's frustrating for Michael Maguire, but also I think there's an element of that would be tantalising as a coach to have those players at your disposal, but they've got to learn the art of deception. They've got to learn the art of just being able to tailor the game and the speed of the game they want to, AP.
Yeah, Dave, and I guess it's a bit surprising in that they've got two really experienced game managers out there in Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds. So, again, when they get it right, like they can absolutely blow teams off the park, but it's just knowing when to press the button and when to tuck it under the arm, when to kick for a touch, all those sorts of things. They're still working on those aspects. Do you know, when you talk about, and when we talk about the Broncos and the kicking game, and you also got to give credit to Parramatta. You mentioned it earlier on. Parramatta are really good at the things that you don't have to be talented at, which is kick chase, putting pressure on kickers, getting up in the face of your defence, all those little areas where, throughout different courses of the game, Parramatta were better than the Broncos at. Yeah, and Michael Maguire acknowledged that at the end as well. Yep. Hey, let's talk about eligibility changes and a shake-up with State of Origin. We're going to touch on this, and we have got some texts about this, and we're going to get to those in the second hour as well. So we want you to weigh in on this because it always has been a talking point. Now, there may be some changes. Michael Shamus and Dan Walsh reporting for the Sydney Morning Herald. He's saying the ARL Commission considering huge changes to the game's eligibility rules around Origin and international teams to allow Tier 1 nation players to represent State of Origin. So, to break it down and make it really easy, and I've said this on a number of occasions, I don't know whether you agree with it. I think if you were born and raised in Australia and came through the junior development pathways of the Australian system,
Queensland, New South Wales, now Melbourne, whatever it may be, you should be allowed to play Origin.
Yeah.
And the example of that is Victor Radley. Now, he could have played a few years ago. He was wiped out by the match review committee.
Yep.
But I don't mind Victor Radley playing Origin and then representing England at a World Cup or whatever it may be. Adam Fanua-Blake is another one. Is he born and raised in
Meadowbank?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
just
gone
down the
through
road.
the systems?
Yep.
He's already played for New Zealand, so I don't know whether
He
moving
played
forward.
one test for them in 2017.
But Victor Radley for me is probably the example I want to use. I don't mind him playing Origin, and then I don't mind him playing for England against Australia at the end of this year.
So all of this has come about, Sats, because it used to be the big three. So it would be England, New Zealand, Australia.
Yep.
But the rise of the Pacific nations has just totally changed the landscape to the point where on their day, Samoa and Tonga can probably beat Australia or New Zealand or England.
Yep.
So initially we started this debate because, Tino, Payne, Haas, possibly the Hammer are going to shift their allegiances from Australia to Samoa.
Yep.
But we want to keep Origin strong because there's something special about Origin, right? Like it would be different. Victor Radley would be fine. What I wouldn't have been comfortable is if a Sam Burgess, for instance, had played for New South Wales, because he'd been here for a certain amount of years. Like that would somehow alter that special, fabric of Origin. So you still want to preserve that. And I don't think that this change or proposed change would do that. I think it could potentially make the international game stronger. And even I remember speaking to Michael Maguire when he was the New Zealand coach, and he said, I wanted Reece Walsh to represent New Zealand because he's eligible.
Yep.
Reece Walsh may never play for Australia, we want, obviously he plays for Queensland as well, but would it be a bad thing to see him in a New Zealand jersey?
I don't want him playing against Australia. I know we want to strengthen international rugby league, and that's great. And it is absolutely flying at the moment.
Yep.
Tier 1, Tier 2, that needs, probably needs readdressing because it's based on your development pathways, your funding, accessible sort of finance, whatever it may be. If that's the case, Samoa and Tonga are never going to be a Tier 1 nation.
Yep.
When they can go toe-to-toe now with New Zealand, England and Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, your Tier 2 nations are probably those ones like France and Cook Islands and Fiji at a pinch, only at a pinch, PNG. But basically what we're saying about state of origin, I believe, is if you're born and bred here and you've gone through the entire junior networks, you should be up. AJ Brimson is another one. He's got English heritage. Will play for England at the end of the season against Australia.
Brayley apparently has English heritage,
but still eligible to play for Queensland if there's a number of injuries. I don't mind that. I like it.
Yeah. Well, the main thing is, we've got a World Cup coming up. We're trying to become a global game by doing things such as taking the game to Las Vegas. We're trying to get more of the Pacific involved. We've got PNG coming in, so we're trying to grow it. So anything that helps the international game has to be a good thing. Exactly.
I've got a text here from 5 Stars. GK says, agree 100%. Origin started 45 years ago. Our population has changed massively. He says, keep Origin the same, but international, where the players want to play. I think it's more around with Origin. I agree with you. Our rugby league population has changed as well. We've got a huge injection of Pacifica players.
It's more than 50% now.
Yeah, and there is a fear that a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, the Pacifica players are going to dominate Origin." Doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter if there's a majority of Pacifica players. If they're the best players in their positions and they're eligible, they should be allowed to play because, like you're saying, the numbers dominate the rugby league population right now.
But if that trend continues, it could get to the point where the Kangaroos are struggling to beat those top nations, like where they're way down in the pecking order.
So I'll throw up this. Okay, if there's an Ashes tour at the end of the year and you are a player that's, I'm saying Stephen Crichton, for argument's sake, okay, who's basically lived his, primarily all of his life in Australia. He's come through the junior network systems, plays New South Wales but plays for Samoa. If Samoa do not have a game at the end of this year, should Stephen Crichton be eligible to be picked for Australia? He's the best centre in the game.
Yeah, I can live with that. If that's what he wants to do.
And if it's a World Cup year,
well,
you've got every right to represent your country of heritage.
It's
or
up to the players
Samoa,
as well. Like if they feel strongly about it and have a chance to represent both.
You're really having a problem with that earpiece,
having a problem with that earpiece.
Yeah, so it's a discussion. I think the ARLC are going to have some pretty strong conversations. I've got no doubt they will integrate a lot of key people within the game, like your Wayne Bennett's and the co.
That's another interesting one, Sats, on the international game. And they've decided that Kevin Walters is going to be the coach, and congratulations to him. I'm sure he'll do a good job. But have we gotten to the point now where we've moved past club coaches not being able to be eligible for that honour? Because basically what you're saying to everyone is you can't. The best 17 coaches are NRL coaches. Yep. The next two are probably the New South Wales and Queensland coaches, and they're not eligible. So it's almost like 20th pick for the most prestigious role there is in the game.
Our best coaches are in clubland, aren't they?
That's right.
And they should be overseeing a program. But in saying that, I think for this tour, purely for this tour, Kevy's perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect.
You could have kept Mel in there because he doesn't start business till November 1, and by then all of the tests would have been finished.
And he can
overseas.
recruit players while he's in camp
exactly.
as well. Make the Perth Bears strong. Hey, let's get to a break here. We've gone past the first hour of Saturday League kickoff, but nonetheless, we've got plenty to talk about. We will talk about Kevy Walters, a club in focus, the Parramatta Eels, your text messages, and the rest of the games across Saturday and Sunday. Stick around. More after the break. Plenty of teams to focus on over this weekend, and our team in focus is Parramatta. We touched on one of the teams last week, and we're going to touch on. I know we touched on them earlier on, but probably go into a little bit more of a deep dive. We've got a lot of fans here as well around Parramatta and their future as well. And I have to say that the future is bright when it comes to our Parramatta fans, and I think Jason Ryles has really managed that, and Mark O'Neill, their general manager of footy, and everyone involved has really managed the situation really well.
Yeah.
What I like about the Parramatta Eels, AP, is their transparency. They've come out and just said, this is what we stand for. We've got a player that's moving on who's going to another club for big money. Well done.
Yeah.
And they're going to stop you from taking a deal of that nature. But this is what we're going to do moving forward. And I think as Australian sport fans, as Australians, full stop, I think we accept that better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, especially for a rookie coach who's just come into the side, there's a tendency for short-term outlook with everything, right? Whereas he's done everything with a longer-term view, and he's had the support of the board to make some really tough decisions. So if all he's worried about is wins this season, he keeps Clint Gutherson, he keeps Mike Acevo, Regan Campbell-Gillard, he persists with Dylan Brown, Sean Lane, Ryan Madison, Joe Offahengawi, because he thinks I'll get as close to the 8, maybe I sneak in. But he's gone, you know what, I'm going to tear it up. I'm going to play my style of football. We're going to be faster, we're going to be more mobile. I'm going to recruit the sort of guys that are going to buy into that.
Yep.
And it's very similar to Cameron Ciraldo's first year. They came 15th in Ciraldo's first year.
Can you remember while he was going through that process, AP, that everyone was criticising Cameron Ciraldo and their management for what they were doing?
Yeah.
Now, when Phil Gould got involved, he did it at Penrith as well. He cleaned out a few from Penrith at the time. He knew he had these really good young players coming through, and he had to make way for them.
Yeah.
Then Gould moves on, Cleary takes over.
Yeah.
Again, for the second time. And at the Bulldogs, it's been much the same. It doesn't make any... You don't have to be Einstein to realise that Ciraldo has noticed this as part of that team at Penrith.
Yeah.
And the benefits of running a program of that nature. We need to clean out the players that unfortunately haven't done the job for us before. We have to put faith in the ones that we can develop over a period of time. And now a lot of those players have got the 40, 50, 60 games under their belt.
Yeah.
They're having a major influence on the way the Bulldogs are going in this season.
Well, Jason Ryles is a realist as well. So at the start of the year, he addressed the members at a forum. So everyone's all excited, we've got a new coach, we're going to make the 8. And he said, look, this could be a bit, Ciraldo was the new shiny toy, he was the new coach, and they had a really tough first year. And it's possible that potentially something like that can happen. But we're going to hold our nerve and we're going to play the long game. And that's what he's done. And all of a sudden, by not getting into a bidding war for Dylan Brown, he's got a bit of a war chest. So when a guy like Talon De Silva comes onto the market, he can pick him up.
Yep.
They wanted Lachlan Galvin. Ultimately, Galvin decided to go to the Bulldogs. That's fine. But the next time there's a player that comes onto the market like that, Parramatta have got the more money than any other club, and they can strike. So they're going to be in pole position for that.
That's smart. Managing the cap is, those CEOs and general managers of footy, basically half of every day is made up of how they can manage the cap, how they can manipulate their playing group to make sure that they all fit in as well. So that is our club in focus. We'll get stuck into the Parramatta Eels. And it's all thanks to Winghouse and also our really good friends at Monarch Advance as part of the Saturday League Kickoff family. Don't talk about the Eels, talk about the Titans, talk about the Cowboys, talk about the West Tigers, not Parramatta. That's the kiss of death. Thanks, Sats and AP, Parramatta says. But when we talk about what it looks like their retention, recruitment and retention. So players, Josh Papali, I should say, Joash.
Yep.
Talon De Silva, Jordan Samrani.
Yep.
As well. Katonga, who's a very skillful back rower, running back rower as well. Riley Smith, the young hooker who's just re-signed.
Yep.
Isaiah Yongi, who will go down as one of the nominations of Rookie of the Year, without a doubt, you would think. The influence that he's had in his first full season as well. So Jack DeBellin comes in.
Yep.
Ryan Madison is heading to the Super League. Dylan Walker has been really good signing.
Yep.
Talon De Silva, like we said, and also Dylan Brown leaving. And Addo and Lomax, they're really important cogs in this as well for two different reasons.
Yeah.
Lomax is a state of origin player. He's an elite player. And Josh Addo is still one of those guys that can have a real positive effect on your playing group.
We saw when Mitchell Moses kicked for Lomax and he scored that try, just Parramatta fans have been praying that this is what we'd be seeing all year, but those guys have for both injured at different times.
Yep.
They've hardly combined at all, not for New South Wales nor for the Eels. The interesting one is what they're going to do with number 6. So the idea was that if Isaiah Yongi was fit, he would have played fullback and they would have played Joash Papali at number 6 to see if potentially he's that guy.
Yep.
They've also got a couple of really good halves just coming through underneath, like Lincoln Fletcher, a couple of others. So it's sort of that, do we wait until those guys are ready to come through or do we try to get a bridging player? So, for instance, Sandon Smith, who will probably get squeezed out of the Roosters, particularly if, as we
he comes
expect.
off at the end of next year.
So they've been offered him, right?
Yep.
And they've decided that we think that the guys that we've got coming through can potentially get to his level fairly quickly. So at this point, they're keeping their powder dry. So it'll be interesting if Joash can possibly get a few games before the end of the year and combines well with Mitch Moses. And maybe that could be a pointer to the way they go, at least for 2026.
I love the angle. I like that approach, if that's the approach from Parramatta Eels and Jason Ryles. Just putting faith in your coaching.
Yeah.
Not only your coaching, it's the coaching of everyone else that comes underneath you as well, all part of your pathways and your knock-on effect coaches. Jordan Rankin's involved at Parramatta, is apparently a very good coach as well, and is a player that's better than anyone that can tell you about first-hand experience about being entered into first grade at a very young age. I mean, he was year 11, 16 he was
Incredible.
at the Gold Coast Titans. I mean,
we'll never see that ever again.
well, they've changed the rules because of it. You've got to be 17 and whatever to actually play first grade.
They changed the rules for Joey Suaalii, but otherwise it's 18 for everyone else.
Shout out to you, Nick. Now the Parra did to the Broncos what they should have done for the weeks leading in against Penrith and Canberra, and that's play for 80 minutes. Ryles will get Parra to the finals next year, providing Moses is fit. And that's what it always comes down to, your key players. If it's not your key players and they're not available, like we're saying, it just comes down to your coaching then. I look at Ricky Stewart. Ricky Stewart has taken a team that has got a rookie fullback, has got a rookie number 6, has got a rookie number 9 that's coming through that plays like a Harry Grant, that young Owen Paddy.
Yeah.
They've got these 3 rookie players and he's turned them into, well, top-line players week in, week out for their team. They're a huge reason why the Canberra Raiders may win the minor premiership and will definitely be playing top 4 footy. So, and usually we look at these sides that have an array of stars in their side, and they're the reason why they get there. The Canberra Raiders are getting there through good coaching, good recruiting, and confidence in their young players.
So Parramatta have missed the mark a little bit with the loss of some really good young talent that they've helped develop. So guys like Blaze Talangi, Ethan Sanders, Matt Arthur, they're now saying, we don't want that to happen anymore. Yep. And you can see that they're giving these young guys a go, probably a little bit before their time in some instances, but they're very much planning for the future. And mate, by the time these guys get to 30, 40, 50 NRL games in the next sort of 18 months or so, they're going to be much better players. They're going to be battle-hardened. And they've still got those old heads, like Moses is re-signed long-term, Junior Barlow's there. So they're just getting that balance right.
Yep. Now, Troy from the Parra Cave podcast, who listens to the show throughout the week. Enjoy your content, Troy, as well. If you love listening to your rugby league podcasts, just search for Parra Cave podcast, because Troy is an absolute tragic Parramatta's fan. He said, what Jason Ryles is brewing is looking very good. Short-term pain, long-term gain. Players are wanting to play for the jersey, and the coach, Ryles, isn't afraid of making the hard choices. Yeah, and that's what we're touching on. You've got to have a coach, or you've got to have not only a coach, you've got to have those support people around you that are willing to all be aligned, don't you? You've got to be aligned with your decision-making. If you're not, that's when the club can become fragmented.
That's a really good point you make, because Jason Ryles, like most people would jump at the first NRL opportunity that they get as a head coach.
Yep.
Jason Ryles was offered the Dragons job, and that's a club that he's represented. It's literally just down the road. He's lives in Wollongong. They offered him a 4-year deal on massive coin, and he just felt that it wasn't aligned, right? So it wasn't the right fit, that he was better off biding his time, and he spent a bit more time under Craig Bellamy down there, and he waited until the right opportunity arose. What appealed to him about the Parramatta job was that they were going to play the long game. Yep. They didn't expect him to come in and try to squeak into the 8 straight away. He can make whatever changes he has. He's got carte blanche. He's got people around him that he trusts. He's got Nathan Brown, who's an assistant, who's been a head coach for a long time, is a bit of a sounding board to him. So all of those things have just made it the right club at the right time for Jason Ryles.
So what we're seeing in the game a lot more now, listeners and viewers across Fox League and the SEN Network, is that the assistant coaches now, the really good assistant coaches that are out there that could step up and become a first-grade coach, they're a lot more educated about what makes a club and also what's going to assist your role as a head coach. We interviewed Josh Hannay a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And he sort of gave us a really short insight into what a lot of assistant coaches look at these days. The ones that have been assistants for a number of years and are willing and are ready to step up, they look at the club salary cap because you're going to be judged by the players that are available, the players you can't keep, the players that you can't sign because the salary cap is exhausted, the resources that you got as a club, how aligned is the football department for the rest of the organisation, and also the playing talent that you've got and the length of their contracts that they're on. They're the sort of questions that an assistant coach will ask potential clubs these days. And there are some assistant coaches out there that are ready to be head coaches that are very selective about the clubs that they will go to. A lot of time they'll make a decision purely out of impatience. And they just want to be there. They want to be a head coach. And so, they're a lot more educated now, the assistant coaches. They ask a lot of relevant questions. And this is what Jason Ryles, I feel as though, got the job at Parramatta, because Parramatta are a big club. They've got a huge junior base. They've got big pathway programs. They've got big budgets. They're a big club, one of the biggest in the comp. They needed someone that had overseen big programs. And him being involved in the Wallabies in England and being at Melbourne as well sort of ticks those boxes.
Well, Jason Ryles came in with his eyes wide open. Like, he had a look under the hood, and there was some stuff there. Like that Parramatta had got themselves into a bit of a tangle with some of their contracts, and particularly the fact that they'd given a lot of players, their marquee guys, options in their favour rather than mutual options or in the club's favour. So the players that they wanted to move on, they all took up the option because they couldn't get that sort of money anywhere else. And then guys like, Dylan Brown, we know what he did. But you know what? That's sort of turned out to be a blessing in disguise for them. So Dylan Brown would have been on $1.1 million next year, all the way through for 6 or 7 years. So they've got that money that they can free up. They might not invest it in a 6. They might decide, we've already invested in Talon. We might get another forward or an edge back rower.
They've upgraded players that are already in the system.
All of that. So there's so much more flexibility now. And they've learnt the hard way. We're not going to be giving these players any more options in their favour.
As we go to the break, from Frank here, he says, what if all these young players that Ryles is bringing in just doesn't work over the next 2 to 3 years? Then what? Parramatta rebuild again. Well, Frank, it's a good point, but that's the art of coaching. The art of coaching is making these players believing in your coaching, and then making sure that they're ready to play first grade.
Just finally, the biggest endorsement of him has been Mitch Moses. He said, I was under Brad Arthur for a long time. I thought I knew everything. And he said, in 6 months under Jason Ryles, it's blown my mind. Him, Nathan Brown, all the coaching team, what I've been able to learn has taken my game to the next level.
Yeah, good to hear. That's a good endorsement from the players. Now, after the break, we're going to chat all the big news throughout the week, and one of those is the Kangaroos job. Kevy Walters has been given the keys to the Roos for the upcoming Ashes, and we want to get to all your texts as well, as many as we can. 0457 736 736 is the number, and if you want to give us a call, 1300 01 1170. Last half an hour of Saturday League kickoff. We've had plenty of interaction from the listeners and also the viewers through Fox League, and we love all your input. Even if Para Steve just wants to hammer me for 2 hours straight, it's okay.
You keep going. Keep them coming.
486 says, can you see the Eels having a year like Canberra next year, fit and healthy? I actually can. I actually can see them being around, especially that 5th, 6th, 7th for a majority of the year, and that comes down to the coaching and also the really good, impressive young players they've got coming through.
It all depends on what they do in the number 6 jersey. If
Yep.
Mitchell Moses is fit and they've got someone that they're alongside him that can go the journey,
Yep.
they'll have a good year.
Yep, exactly. Hey, we want to talk about some of the big news throughout the weekend and want to get your way in here. 0457 736 736 is the number. Or give us a call, 1300 01 1170, as we are live through Fox League and also the SEN Network. Now, Kevin Walters named as the Kangaroo coach for the Ashes. Now, it's only just for the Ashes.
Yeah.
Now, people are saying, oh, they've only done that because he wants to open himself up for an NRL coaching job in 2026. Well, that takes that out of the equation because he won't be there for pre-season.
Yeah, that's not the case. He's actually said that I'm actually really happy with this. I'm not chasing anything in club football. I'd like to be the Australian coach for as long as possible.
And I think this is the path forward for Kevy. I think if he does a really good job at the Ashes at the end of this year, I think this could be him. I think he could create a real good coaching career out of this. Why would you go back into club footy when you've got the ultimate number one job, I think, outside of being a club coach, is coaching the national side, which I think is above coaching at Origin, to be quite honest. We look at some of the great coaches we've had for long periods of time at the national level with Bozo Fulton for so long and just had a great program going with that Australian side. Yeah, Mel for a lot of years as well with some great success and also some defeats as well. Tim Sheens. So I think it's the most prestigious job, and it should be the most prestigious coaching job. And if he does a great job, which I think he will, because going on tour, being a coach and being able to juggle that is very difficult. You got a lot of personalities living in each other's pockets day in, day out.
At the end of a very long season, like everyone talks about how long the schedule is, how long the program is, the toll that it takes. But you've also got to remember that this is the first opportunity that we've had to do this in 22 years, a proper full-blown Ashes Kangaroo Tour, 3 tests, and there's a real appetite for it on that side of the world as well. Like the games are just about sold out.
I know. Yeah, I think the last game, I've heard Jimmy Smith talking about it during the week. I think he's talking about it with Mal, actually. And they're talking about how the last game, I think capacity is 20,000 when, you know, if it's 1-1 and you're going to, it's like them taking you to the backyard of their house and just beating you up in front of your neighbours.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great scene. I can't wait to get back to those days when you wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning to watch an Australia versus England game. A lot of those midweek games are not going to happen, of course. Just the 3 tests. But now with England having Victor Radley and AJ Brimson available, it makes them a lot stronger than they would have been previously. Many that are from England, shout out to you, Briggsy, who listens and watches the show via the SEN app in Huddersfield. He believes the team that they'll put together, the England side, will be a very formidable side.
Well, they might even have the edge over Australia in the middle, depending on the middle forwards that we were talking about, guys like Teen and Payne, whether they make themselves available. It's going to be absolutely awesome, but it is a long tour. Like you've been on
after a long season, it seems like a lot longer than what it is after the season that you have compared to the old Kangaroo tours where you're gone for 10 weeks.
How much of it is football and focusing, and how much of it is man management and making sure that everyone has a really good time without overdoing it?
I think the art of this, what they call short-term coaching, is not overcomplicate things. Continuity is really important as well, making sure that the staff that you have, I think he needs to have some, needs some staff that lay over from Mal's program as well. Just, because Mal's from touring to England with those sides, he's got all the, I suppose they're checked in operationally over there with, a lot of the locations that you train at, the training venues, your hotels, those regular things you need to have a lot of continuity with. Yeah. But as a short-term coach, you've got to make it as basic as humanly possible. You've got all these players coming from all these clubs that have got all these different focuses on the way they play the game. So you've got to be able to bring all that in. I'll use that word alignment again. You've got to bring all that into alignment and keep it as basic as possible. Make your training fun and competitive, but also have the ability that early on in the week that you got to allow them to have a little bit of downtime, not too much. That's taking their complete focus away from the game. But as a coach, that's what's really important with short-term coaching, keeping it basic, but also when we need to be on, we've got to be on.
It's really important for the English game too, in that like there's obviously the Super League struggling. There's been talk about potentially the NRL coming in and buying it. So we're just starting to do a couple of things. So I think the first step was taking 2 English teams to Las Vegas and giving them experience and exposure, everything that comes with playing at Allegiant Stadium. The Kangaroos tour is back, and it's going to be interesting too because we've got new franchises coming in. England have just upped their quota from 7 import players to 10. So there's going to be more competition for players than ever before.
Yeah.
So whether we start seeing a few more of our Australian guys going over there will be fascinating.
The other flip side of that is if I'm a club, I'm looking at the opportunity of partnering with a UK Super League club as a feeder club. Have you got some of those young players that aren't ready to play NRL yet?
Yeah.
And you send them over there like some of your halves and some of your front rowers as well. You send them over there just to get used to playing against, get against adults on a week-to-week basis. I think there could be a really good simulation there as well. So it's going to be interesting how this all rolls out. October 25 is the first test in Wembley. I cannot wait. I mean, the biggest crowd is mid-70s back in 1992, I think it was.
Yeah.
We could beat that.
How good would that be?
It'd be amazing. It'd be unbelievable. Now, I want to talk about Smokies for the Ashes, AP. Now, I've already outlined my Smoky for the Ashes. I've said this a number of times. I think Jacob Preston is a Smoky for the Ashes, the back row from the Bulldogs. Would have played Origin until he got suspended. So many may think that's not really a Smoky, but seeing that he hasn't played representative rugby league at the moment, I think Jacob Preston would be a Smoky.
Or potentially Kaeo Weeks is one for me. So if you assume that Dylan Edwards is your fullback, you need a backup fullback, right? But you need someone who can play other positions as well. And I think for that reason, it probably rules out a James Tedesco. You probably wouldn't take a Reece Walsh. Kalen Ponga, we don't know where he's at with, Australia and what he's going to be doing in his future. Whereas with Weeks, he could potentially play in the halves. He can play in a whole number of positions. So it just gives you that flexibility.
Yep. It's a good segue, actually. You talk about Kaeo Weeks, because I wanted to touch on this. With Kaeo Weeks, and he's re-signed until the end of 2029, and we talk about eligibility, he's came out during the week and saying that he's pledged his allegiance to New South Wales, because he's a born Sydney player, and also Australia as well, where many are thinking that this Kiwi heritage that he has, that he would make himself eligible there. So it's by outlining that now, it puts him right in the firing line.
It's also a message to Kevy Walters, isn't it? And he's doing it at a time when he's playing his best football. Some players are just at the right place at the right time. We said that with Dylan Brown, and same with Kaeo Weeks as well. Playing great football, just earned a contract extension, hopefully rolling into a massive final series. And it's interesting too, Sats, because how much do you think about Origin form? Because it's all good and well to say, if we're picking the team today, this will be the team, and it'll be based on what happened between New South Wales and Queensland. But there's always a few that emerge in this final series, aren't there?
Big games. Can you line up in big games? It's the window into the soul of a player and how they handle those big moments. So
Lindsay Smith last year, for instance, he hasn't played for New South Wales, but he was part of that Panthers side that went on that run.
So New Zealand Rugby League apparently went to Kaeo Weeks and said, "Can you pledge your allegiance?" And he's rejected that and said, "No, I'm Australia." And the way that he's playing is he's got to be in the conversation. Yep. I mean, we talk about quite often about players that make you watch them play.
Yeah.
And Canberra's become everyone's sort of second favourite side, the way they play the game. Kaeo Weeks makes me want to watch Canberra even more.
Yep.
I'm a huge Ethan Strange fan. I love the way this Owen Paddy's playing, but Kaeo Weeks, every time he brings the ball back, I think something potentially is going to happen.
You know how in Origin camp, how in the week leading up to the game, they normally offer an opportunity to a young player like Isaiah Katoa comes in to the New South Wales side to just do the drill, spend time around them, because at some point he will be wearing the sky blue jersey. Do you almost take players away on tour, even if you know they're not going to play, but you think they're going to be Australian players in the future and this will be a great experience for them?
Absolutely. And they've always done that. It's like the cricket over the time have taken one player. They know they're not going to play.
Yeah.
But they take them on tour just to learn how to prepare on the road. And most importantly, they get around those elite players and they learn how to prepare. You often hear stories about players that come back from Origin.
Yeah.
They say, I thought I prepared really well until I saw Petro prepare.
Yeah.
Until I saw Darren Lockyer prepare. Those sort of players, Shane Webke, all those sort of players that you take that back to your club form and you just change some little things. It doesn't matter how old you are in your career. And it makes you a better player. So that's why they take them away. And because not only is it a reward, but they also feel as though that they deserve to go away and be part of future tours going away.
Yep.
Now, many are saying that really quickly before we get to the break. And on the other side of the break, we're going to touch on the games to come throughout the weekend as well, is that a lot of people are saying, hang on a sec, Kevy only got the job because everyone fell off the perch. Well, you know what? You take what you get when you're a coach. There's only very few jobs in the game, and he'll be a very good coach at this level.
I'm only here because Webby isn't. You take what you can get.
There you go. And I'm only here because Jimmy Smith didn't want to do it on a Saturday. He wanted to milk his cows and feed his goats. So there you go. We're all the same. Smoking for the Ashes, boys. Para Powerball says Tyron Wishart. Don't mind it.
You know what? As you said, Sats, big final series. There you go.
Exactly. 1300 01 1170 is the open call number. Let's get to a break. And on the other side, we're going to touch on the Saturday form guide. Welcome back to the show. For our SEN listeners, stick around after us because Crunch Time is on with Shawnee Omerod, also Blakey Austin as well. Gibbo is in the chair. It's always a great few hours there as well, so make sure you stick around for that. I was just talking to them off air, actually. I just said, are the punters, are they loving Canberra? He said, they're all over Canberra to win the comp.
Yeah.
Yep.
What wouldn't you be? But I remember, they played that first game in at Allegiant Stadium, and when he goes into the press conference after everyone was saying they were going to come last, Ricky Stewart just goes, it's going to be a good comp if we're coming last. It is a good comp.
Blake Austin, he brought up, former Canberra great, he brought up a good point. He said, if they won the comp, would they be the youngest, the most inexperienced side to win a comp? And without going into any research, I'm sure Stormy Daniel will on the text line, one of our loyal listeners, it'd have to be up there with one of the most inexperienced teams to win a comp.
And then you take Jamal Fogarty, who's one of their most experienced guys out of that side next year, probably Josh Papali as well. So it's a very young side. Like they've just built it so beautifully for the future.
And we've got a text there about Jamal Fogarty. There hasn't been a replacement yet. Ethan Sanders is there. There was talk of Jake Clifford at one stage, but no announcement yet. Maybe Ricky just thinks that Sanders is the man to go with.
Yeah, well, that's why they got him.
We should all send one early next Saturday, a text message, and see if they read them out. Who is going to be the antagonist? 612 says. We've got plenty here we haven't got to. We'd love to be able to get to all of them, but we can't, can we? Hey, let's get to our Saturday form guide thanks to Winghouse and also our friends at Monarch Advance as well. The Warriors versus Titans, they kick it off 3 p.m. Go Media Stadium. Another sellout, you would think, in Auckland. Tanner Boyd is still wearing the number 7 jersey. Had a checkered game last week against the Knights. Of course, the drop goals, the misses, and also the penalty goal, which he wouldn't usually nail. He usually kicks at a mid 80% to a low 90%. He's an amazing goal kicker. So, pressure at the time got the best of Tanner, but fortunately enough, the Warriors get away with it. I like that he was disappointed after the game rather than celebrating. That's the sign of a young player that still knows he's got a lot of growing to do. But
the one that he kicked after the siren was harder than the one that he missed, but there was no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Braden, one of our loyal listeners on SEN throughout the week, he's in Perth. He's going to be one of the Perth Bears' number 1 supporters. He's a mad rugby league supporter. He's a mad Gold Coast Titans supporter, actually. And he did send a text earlier on saying, with the way the weekend has gone already, are the Titans a chance against the Warriors?
Dez's 500th.
We never, stranger things have happened.
I'll tell you what as well. So Kieran Foran has retired. He said that he's finishing up at the end of the year. And we know that Jerome Hughes is going to be battling with that shoulder injury. Yep. So hopefully he comes back and gets to play in the finals. But I wonder if Kieran Foran perhaps postpones retirement and plays for the Kiwis. What an incredible way for him to go out.
Who are the Kiwis playing?
Do they have... Is there a test at the end of the
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm sure they're playing
I thought
someone.
you knew. Like,
I'm sure they're playing someone.
it wouldn't be a silly idea.
Yeah.
Do the Titans have a chance today? Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely they do. I think the Warriors, they'll play top 4 footy, the Warriors. I think they'll hold on, the Warriors. This is a real danger game for them because this is the game the Warriors are expected to win. And in the years gone by, not 2 years ago and this year, but in years gone by, the Warriors have dropped these games. So
Was there part of you that thought once Luke Metcalf was done for the season that they could fall into a hole?
no. I thought they'd still be able to play some pretty consistent footy. Yeah. Probably not the same effect, maybe a different style of footy.
Yeah.
But these young back rows they got coming through, I mean, whoever's playing the forward pack today for the Titans has to be overly aggressive.
Yes.
Because the only way you can beat these kids, the Warriors. Now, we've got Panthers up against the Tigers, Combank, 5:30 p.m. I was there last week for the South Panthers game. What a great stadium.
Yeah.
It's a great stadium to watch a game of footy from. Luai and Cleary, well, this is going to be alluded to, the matchup, mate, isn't it? Every time they play against each other because they're such great mates. A lot of ex-Panthers, yeah, of course. So always playing against the Tigers playing against Panthers, ex-Panthers players. This Tigers team, you mapped it out a little bit earlier on, AP. Even though sitting where they are on the ladder, they're a lot better than what they've, where they sit on the ladder in relation to the style of play they're playing.
Yeah. And they've brought in winners, haven't they? Like you mentioned the 4 ex-Panthers, so Luai, Taruva, Taylor May's now come in there, Appy. Terrell May has made a massive difference to that side. So they're definitely improving. I'm still a bit disappointed. Like, I thought that they might have even gone a little bit further up the ladder. And there's still a lot of stuff at ownership level where they haven't quite got their back office right. But the game is better when the Tigers are flying. It's been so long. They're not going to get a 4th wooden spoon. They're much better than that. It's now we just see how many rungs of that ladder they're able to climb.
Yeah. The signing of Taylor May's a good one. Yeah, whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. He's a good player. And I thought last week, his first game back into the NRL after a long layoff from NRL-style rugby league and the speed of it, he handled it beautifully.
Well, he'd had a couple of games in New South Wales Cup. He scored a hat-trick. They got him in, and Terrell was talking about how they just know where each other are, and Terrell will get the little sneaky offload away. And
well, you got Jerome, you got Terrell, you got Taruva, now Taylor May as well. A lot of these players, Charlie Staines has spent some time with them as well.
Yeah,
you're starting to get that real connection. Sharkies looking to consolidate a top 8 spot. Sharky fans, shout out to you, Budster, who'd be listening out there. Rabbitohs up against the Sharkies, 7:35. I should say Polytech Stadium.
Polytech.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound the same, does it?
No,
Shark
not really.
Park, but Polytech Stadium as well. That's in Gosford as well. So again, one of the great stadiums to watch a game of footy from, and optics wise, one of the great ones on TV to watch it from as well.
Yeah.
Now Hines up against Dodd. Everyone's been saying how great it is that Nico Hines has been playing. It's because his forwards have finally aimed up. You've finally given your hooker and your half, and Braden Trindle and co, an opportunity, and Will Kennedy a chance to do what they're best at.
Yeah.
And so if they continue to play the basics and do what they're doing, play a real fast, basic style of aggressive rugby league, they'll win more games than they lose, AP.
Well, what a difference it's made to Blake Brayley's game as well.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're talking about him knocking back contract offers. He's the hottest thing. He's hotter than a rock from the sun. Everyone wants a piece of him. He's going to be a bear, etc., etc. But as you said, he can only play off the back of what they give him. And,
absolutely.
A few weeks ago, we were saying, move Nico to fullback, get Atkinson into the half. So things can change very quickly in the NRL.
Nico just needs time, and when Nico's got time, he's proven what he can do, and he's had time over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and you're seeing the fruits from all that as well. Lewis Dodd finally gets a start. I'm looking forward to this. It's the reason why I'm going to watch this game closely, because I think if Lewis Dodd's not going to be at the Bunnies next year, I think a team will pick him up. If it means the Bunnies are going to pay for some of his contract.
Wayne Bennett has really been honest with him. He's basically said that, look, as it stands, I haven't seen enough from you to get a start in first grade, but you've got a contract. If you're happy to stay here and play New South Wales Cup and try to prove me wrong, then that's all well and good. We will pay out your contract. We're not going to try to tap you or whatever else. So it comes back on Lewis Dodd. It's like, am I going to prove Wayne Bennett wrong? Am I going to show him enough in this opportunity, a rare opportunity that he has? Or does he all of a sudden think, well, I'm going to have a look around and see what other options are out there?
Yeah, exactly. And let's get to a break on Saturday League kickoff. On the other side, we're going to vote our Tempur player that would have slept well overnight from the Thursday, Friday night games. And also, we'll get to as many texts as you can before we head to crunch time on SEN. And that's it for another edition of Saturday League Kickoff. Now our Tempur Sleepwell Player of the Night, our good friends at Tempur, and the best player or the player that will sleep well will get a pillow of their choice. Are you a soft, hard, or medium? I'm a soft.
Hard.
My head's got to sink in it to the point where you can't see it.
Nah, that's no good.
So who's your player that would have slept well?
Joash Papali. What about him? Just I reckon he'd be sending that pillow to the bunker as well. Just
for 40 seconds, he wasn't going to sleep for the rest of his life.
Unbelievable game.
Yep.
First game in fullback. Was an absolute superstar.
Yep.
Would have been a real shame if that was a blemish and, that would have cost him the game. So well done to Joash.
Yep. Okay. Hey, you also were saying about a possible smoky off air.
Mark Nawanganitawase. You just wanted me to say that on here and see if I could spit it out.
Or Kat, one of our great support team here, says, just say Marky Mark.
Marky Mark. Bolter. There you go, Bolter.
I like it. Hey, thanks to our friends at Winghouse and Monarch for the show each and every week. Some real quick texts. Hey, boys, honest thoughts. This is from Barry. Dogs with Galvin at halfback. Not working at the moment, but it will. Yeah, they're going to be a better team with him in there. Listening while I drive from Toongabbie to Barradine in central western New South Wales. I think that's, Coonabarabran area. Could you please do a shout-out to the Barradine Magpies Rugby League Club who play the Dunedoo Maduran Swans today? Thanks very much. From Tooney Creek, Eel. Hey, shout-out to everyone there. And Stormy Daniel, knew you'd come through. And this is for Blake Austin as well. 2021, the Panthers across 117 seasons of Premiership Rugby League to average games 62.7 when they won the comp.
Wow.
Yep. So there you go. Hey, thank you everyone for joining us on this Saturday morning. For our SEN listeners, hang around. Crunch time with Shawnee Omrod, Blakey Austin, and for our Fox League listeners, viewers I should say, have a great weekend of rugby league.